Well, there's a rather long pause there, isn't there? Carl Munson here from expatsportugal.com with the Good Morning Portugal show, counting down to when I get my Good Morning Portugal mug. Have you seen our merchandise, action figures, etc.? I'll put the link in them for them early on. We sold our first mugs. It's fantastic. The idea of people drinking their morning tea or coffee, or obviously if you're in Australia, your evening brew, your Horlicks maybe, out of a Good Morning Portugal. That's a weird thing, isn't it? People drinking Horlicks in the evening in Australia out of a Good Morning Portugal mug. I think it still works on some level. It's Wednesday. It's Ask Anything About Portugal. We will have financial and medical prescriptions loosely. We're not giving out advice specifically, but guidance and having an intelligent adult conversation this morning. Some of it of a philosophical nature. Andy and I were already into it this morning. And here he is. It's Andy the Doc, everybody, in Leiria in Portugal. How are you?
Bom dia, alegria de Leiria, Carl, todos. Yeah, good to see you.
Very good. Not on the school run this morning. Is school over, or is there a pingdemic going in Portugal as well?
School's been over a while, Carl. You're clearly suffering from the monthly version of our inability to find out what weekday it is. But so in fact, Alicia is now in the UK until for the next how many weeks? 4 weeks. So we're enjoying the lack of parental and pseudo-parental responsibilities.
I bet they gaffed the right mess, isn't it? Plates piling up everywhere without a teenager to help.
It's the most tidy it's been since we came here.
Of course. Well, a few of our friends are in this morning. Like I said before, Paul Correa, I'm hoping will join us. It's been one of those funny mornings, technically. As soon as I went to start up the show, I don't know if anyone else has this, but the Microsoft Teams invasion continues. When you put Microsoft on or the latest versions of what Microsoft or how Microsoft are trying to invade every area of your business and personal life. I went to press go live, and then this kind of black square appears that I know is going to be that news that I never wanted. And that's okay. I mean, I know everyone's got to make a living, haven't they? Especially in the digital age. But I can't turn it off, and I have to wait until it's like imposed itself in my consciousness before I can get rid of stuff I never wanted in the first place. It's strange times, and I'm yet to meet anyone who loves Microsoft Teams. But maybe we'll find that person this morning. There's your first question. Ask anything about Portugal. Anyone in Portugal who likes using Microsoft Teams? And if you do, could you teach me how to do the same? Andy, you're shaking your head there.
Well, I mean, if I was reliant on using my desktop, I'd probably use Linux and use Wine for when I had something that needed Windows, and I'd be able to escape Bill Gates's attempt to claw even more dollars, euros, pounds, or any other version of currency that you might use out of your pocket. I mean,
yeah. I think clarification is required there. You said you'd use Wine. I mean, a lot of people do, Doc, but probably not in the sense that you meant there.
Oh, indeed. So Wine is a way of using Windows programs inside Linux without firing up Windows. Most programs will work, possibly even StreamYard in terms of in a browser. You might be able to get away with Linux, Carl, if you experiment with it.
I'm not sure about that. It does seem to like Chrome. I mean, the conversation is going especially nerdy, but I say that because actually the people who you thought would most struggle with technology seem to know about these things these days, don't they? It's what Silicon Valley has done to us. Seemingly, I'm thinking of my oldies like my mum. She's got an incredible grasp of technology, but the domination of these companies does affect our lives. So a lot of these platforms are built on Chrome, aren't they? And then it's a bit difficult to use them anywhere else.
But you can use Chrome. You can use Chrome in Linux. You can use a browser within Linux. So
the free spirit and revolutionary zeal is not entirely dead in the digital world.
No, absolutely not. In fact, it's very much alive in the digital world. Open source and free software is going very strong.
Right, excellent. Okay, well, a few of our friends are here. Stephen Wells, who might have something to say on this very matter, is here this morning. A bon dia from him, a simple bon dia. Elra, good morning to you, Elra. Good morning, everyone, from her to everybody here. Jim White, Baltimore, bon dia. and Matthias in Amsterdam. Bon dia todos to Amsterdam. Dominique Core is here, morning all, and Louise as well. Thank you for your messages, Louise. Bon dia from Sonia G. Cheers, Dominique, by the way, as well. So many of our friends here this morning. Let's say hello to them all. Morning to Patricia Gorsht as well, and Lonnie McLaughlin, who I'm looking forward to meeting. Bon dia, Carl. I'm going to extend that to the Doc, and maybe to Paul, if Paul joins us this morning. Morning from dreary Birmingham. That's not like Birmingham, is it, Doc?
Hi, Sandy. Well, yeah, allegedly.
Good morning, Sandy. Louise says she'd get a mug, but she's run out of PG tips. There's a crisis right there in that part of Portugal. You have my condolences. I'm so sorry to hear that, that you've run out of your favourite expat tea brand. A dark moment in the household. Stephen, they are saying good morning to Portugal. So it does not matter what time it is, where they are. Okay, good point. Good point of order there, Stephen. And I guess that's my catchphrase. Good morning, Portugal. Jerry's is "see you in Portugal." Isn't that a great catchphrase? And I can see him in a sort of a quizmaster coat get up, with a special, like the Brucey. All right, my love, yes, and that thing he used to do. I could see Jerry doing something similar. See you in Portugal, like Jeremy Beadle or something like that. Nubianet. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, so I might be watching with closed eyelids, basically asleep then, Nubianet, but good effort. Bon dia from cloudy and wet Wolverhampton as well, Alyssa, not a million miles from where Doc used to be in practice. Yeah, so if you're not familiar with this man on the right of your screen, he was a GP before he retired in the UK, and that's why we get him on, helping answer all these questions, anything about Portugal. But obviously, if you've got an ex-GP here, you might want to be slanting those questions in a medical way. Bon dia from Mark Stoll as well. Good morning, Mark. Bon dia, morning, Doc. Why can no medical experts discuss the value of finding and catching common cold coronaviruses to boost white T-cell memory response in mucosal membranes? Yes, Doc, why?
No idea. Ask a medical expert. I'm not an expert in immunology and virology, but I don't know. I honestly will. On a serious note, I don't know. I think there are probably not enough experts and too much work at the moment. Basically, we have a crisis worldwide that's facing us. It's a virological and immunological crisis, and we've never had that. Well, I say never. We haven't had a crisis of that nature on this scale before, and therefore there aren't that many experts. Not enough to do with the amount of workload there is.
Oh, okay. So this has caught us short in a few ways, isn't it? So notably in the emergency treatment, and I can't remember the name given to these things. I heard it so many times on the news, but yes, when you get into ICU, ITU, there's been a supply shortage there, isn't there, of equipment and trained staff. And you think the same thing with the know-how of managing the pandemic at this end of things.
Yeah, and I'm fairly sure that those who exist who are able to discuss this in an accessible way, probably. They've been dragooned by the establishment into the mainstream fight, and there aren't many on the fringes kicking their heels, waiting to engage in a perhaps an alternative discussion, or public or accessible discussion. So I suspect that's why it's difficult to engage on virologists and immunologists on that level at the moment. Well, that's my off the cuff opinion.
Well, you make a very good point there, Doc, because it's an emergency, and yeah. I suppose in an emergency the atmosphere changes, and you would perhaps move away from. And I'm not saying it's a good thing. It's just it's almost human nature. But when you're firefighting, you're not really talking anymore about the philosophy of firefighting or arguing about methods, are you? And engaging every corner of the debate. You're getting on with it, for better or for worse, we have to say in this. And I think Will thinks it's for worse. And as we've seen, his tireless campaigning and wanting to bring more alternative and other views to the table. And I think you make a really good point there. The emergency has caused a rather narrow view of things, right?
Yeah, and the inevitable post-event inquiries will hopefully shed light on whether the mainstream approach, which has been adopted by the vast majority, is correct, or whether, in fact, it was the prophets in the wilderness who had it right.
And I think the money's on, in many ways, the prophets in the wilderness, as is always the case, right? You know, this is the way the mainstream world works, where it's dominated by political and monetary agendas. That tends to be the case, right? Some powerful and smart voices can get marginalized when in the world that we have.
It's definitely the case, and you know, I think the risk of us adopting what will be found to be the wrong approach is magnified by definitely by financial and economic vested interest. There's no doubt.
Okay, a sad recognition there, but I'm not surprised, really. Bon dia, guys. Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, Fiona and Simon this morning. Good morning to you both. Kent is here as well. Bon dia, Alegria. Lucky, unlucky. A child woke me up to be here live at 4 a.m. Lucky, I would say. Lucky, I say. And lucky the child who is able to wake a parent up and get the love and attention of a parent, even if you're feeling a little aggrieved by that. You'll look back, you'll treasure those moments in the future. Greetings from Harrogate, wet, windy, and not happy. I think those 4 X's would denote there. Can't wait to get back to the Algarve roll. I thought that was a thing, the Algarve roll. There should have been a full stop in there. Can't wait to get back to the Algarve full stop. Roll on September. Or it could be, can't wait to get back to the Algarve, comma, roll on, because it gets a bit hot, September. Punctuation, very important, can make a big difference. I love MS Teams. What?
I hate MS Teams.
It's Marmite technology. I teach people how to use it all the time. Well, Patricia Gort, we're open to your persuasions, I think, the team here at Expats Portugal. I've actually grown to like Outlook now, which I never did. I mean, I was converted. And you might want to put in the comments, who was the person who introduced you to Gmail? Because Andy Metcalf, my mate Andy Metcalf said to me, probably in about 2006, 2007, you know what? There's this new thing, and they're giving out, I can give you an invitation to try this new thing that Google are doing called Gmail. I was thinking to myself, I don't want to miss out, FOMO. Okay, I'll give it a go. And I love, the criticisms of Google are many and are often justified. But technology, if you keep it on a technological level, they've done an amazing thing for the world. And I think Gmail is incredible. So I've been using Gmail for over a decade, and thought Outlook was really pants. Because there's something about the way Microsoft engineers work. It's the way their minds are figured and or configured, and they want everyone else to be like that. So I find Microsoft stuff really unintuitive. But I have to say, the Outlook part of Teams, okay, I can live with that. But Teams itself is so complex, Patricia. What am I missing? I wouldn't put anything Microsoft on my computer if my life has a strong view. Why do you think she's saying that, Doc?
Because they're massively greedy in terms of resources. They release software that is nowhere near ready. It's buggy. They release new versions all the time, so that you have to engage with them and end up allowing them to send you bullshit. Oh yeah, I mean, don't.
Well, welcome everybody to the Good Morning Portugal show, and ask anything about Microsoft, as it's turned out to be. Hold on, there's another one. We use Teams for work. My job, I soon probably have to quit and move to Portugal. I hope you see, Microsoft Teams is so bad. Matthias is quitting his job over it. Maybe there are other reasons as well. Andy, we need to get together soon. Any personal mail for Andy like that, stick it in the comments. That's fine. Good morning, Bravo. Hi, Andy. Look, another one. I'm going to be in touch. Just settling into my current house sit. This is Carl Munson, the Doc's PA here, managing incoming information. Hola, bon dia, alegria. Just a quick hello due to data issues, which should be sorted on Monday. These are a very data-dependent couple of making their way down through northern Portugal, sending me the most wonderful pictures. Okay, a very quick hi then. We'll take that, Phil, and hope your data issues are sorted soon. A world that relies on data. What, Doc? You're shaking your head again. There's a lot of that going on this morning.
This comment you've got on the screen. I mean, look, so you can hire a builder, right? But you don't expect the builder to do everything from the concrete mixing to the intricate electrical work and the gas fitting. They hire experts in those fields. So GPs tend to know who to go to. They know the overall stuff. They might be experts in some stuff, but any GP who tells you they're an expert in every branch of medicine, you want to steer clear of.
Don't go that. Yeah, exactly. And I think the clue might be in general. Is that right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
General practice, you see. And I think it's the Dutch or Northern European sense of humour there that Matthias is trying on you there. And it's true, isn't it? I mean, the GPs are the generalists, and it's about referral, isn't it, to a collegiate approach of all the colleagues and experts who are the best in their field. That's how it should work, ideally. And I guess it's a bit like going to a Portuguese restaurant and asking for, the finest Goan curry. You might be lucky. In Portugal, actually, you might be lucky, and the chef or the waiter says, "Yeah, actually, chef did spend 5 years in Goa, and he doesn't mean Goan curry." But you're going into a Portuguese restaurant. It says on the outside, and they might be able to do a referral. They might be able to fly you in a takeaway. But I think he's been a bit mischievous there. His old Matthias. Maybe the infection rates are dropping in the UK because people are mixing again, and the common cold virus T cell memory is starting to kick in. Is a theory from Garvo, who I have to say has become quite the epidemiologist and immunologist in this last year, as many people's skills have changed, haven't they? Remarkable.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we're going to end up with the sort of medical equivalent of people who know a little bit about electrics, trying to rewire the house. And,
we know how that can go sometimes, and you could say it's a good job that there are medical experts standing by after that happens, right? Yeah, interesting, and so many conversations starting off with, "I'm not an epidemiologist, but I have been looking at Google." that double whammy to introduce the conversation, which I guess you had to put up with, didn't you? As a GP, people coming in and saying, "I've been looking on the internet."
They printed off. I mean, thankfully, where I worked, it was a working class area. In fact, it was an area where there were many first and second generation people from other countries. So we got less of that. But when I went and worked, whether it was out of hours in an out of hours centre or occasionally I did locums in rather posher areas, you get people coming with sheafs of stuff they printed off the internet, expecting you to go through it all and give your opinion on what was the right way, all in 6 minutes. I used to give them short shrift, I'm afraid.
I thought you said they used to come in with sheaths, which is a very old-fashioned word, but sheafs of paper. Okay.
Sheafs of paper, yeah.
Okay, so Gary, we've got Gary's theory there, and we've all got Louise, who's not going to waste an opportunity to say we've got a crisis, all right, but not the same, the one the mainstream media is talking about. Again, I think it's like what Doc was saying about how the conversation is narrowed in an emergency. The media are exactly the same, aren't they? They're gloom and doom lens. They go from wide angle gloom and doom to telephoto gloom and doom. And that's what's been going on. Unless, of course, occasionally you're lucky enough to see Emmanuel Macron's home being given a new rendering through the mainstream media, you might have to look at Twitter for that sort of thing. Paul Richards, why cannot the experts agree on one issue? Yes, thanks for bringing it back to Portugal, Paul. This is a chicken and egg situation. Which comes first, residency or the non-habitual regime for tax? So what would you say on this, Doc? Because have you got any personal experience in this?
Yeah, I got my NHR before I got my residency. I think. Hold on. Hold on.
There you go.
I'm trying to think that through actually. So I went. So we were in the EU at the time, right? So I went and got. No, I had my residency before I had my NHR.
Yeah.
But effectively, what you're saying is you're not going to be tax resident on a usual basis. So it's not going to be. It's not. It's your intention is what you're basically saying is your intention is to retire here eventually, and that might come in any of the next 10 years.
Yeah.
And however, it is also quite possible that for most of those 10 years, you're not going to be tax resident in the UK, in Portugal, and that doesn't mean necessarily that you won't spend 180 days in Portugal, but might mean that because of dual taxation arrangements, you'll actually pay your tax elsewhere, and therefore. In the years when you are effectively tax resident, you're going to get a big bonus in terms of a low tax rate, and that's effectively what it's saying. But in order to get that, certainly in my case, when we were within the EU, it was residency first and then NHR.
See, it's not complicated at all, is it?
No, simple.
Right, and I think Paul makes a fair point, because we do know people who've fallen foul of this. You know, it's like, can I get the NHR? Yes. Can I get the NHR? Yes. Can I get the NHR? Yes. Put me down for the NHR. Yes, yes. And then, how's my NHR going? Oh, I'm so sorry, you've missed the deadline. You should have done this. This is what this does happen to people. So, you know, I think you've got to be working with the right. You can't. It's one of these things that you struggle to do alone, and if you get short shrift, which is the phrase of the morning from the authorities, I think it's a very difficult thing to do on your own as an expat. I think you should get representation on this.
Well, I disagree. I did my NHR online. It took me 5 minutes.
Right, successfully. So is it all done and dusted? Okay, all right, fair enough. I stand corrected. All right.
But so once you've got your residency, you've got your proof of address. You've got your NIF, you apply for your NHR, because if you can apply for your NHR up till, I think it's 6 months, but up till some point in the tax year following the first tax year in which you become tax resident.
Yes, because by that point you have become a taxpayer, which annuls the criteria, right? Which is that you shouldn't have been for the last 10 years.
So if you move to Portugal on the 2nd of January this year,
yes,
you have until some point in the first half of next year, and I'm not going to say when because I can't remember if it's 3 or 6 months, and it may have been extended due to the lockdown. But you have until some point in the first half of next year to apply for your NHR.
Okay, and like we said, like I opened the show, this is not direct advice. You know, we're not the consultants who are putting our names to like you should do this by then, because that would be silly and open to some sort of possibility for it not being quite right. Work with an expert, or be like Doc was with his. And I think I'm going to mix some metaphors here. You've got to shake the trees, and you've got to be like a dog with a bone with this. You can't just make loose assumptions about it. You've got to be diligent, and you've got to keep checking. I think I think it is safe to say that with this particular thing, to avoid the disappointment, frankly, that some people have faced with this, who've left it too late. Okay, so hopefully that's enough said on that, Paul. But yes, keep shaking the trees, whether you do it yourself or through an expert. Consultant, accounting consultant, tax representative. Yes, and keep the conversation open. You can't. I mean, one thing it's safe to say here is that you can't make assumptions. Right? Makes an ass of you and me, as the old saying goes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Will is thanking you for a good answer, Doc. Sad but true. Those 3 words are absolutely right, Will, in this regard. Wish they'd put me in charge from the start then. So do I. Could have given me £1 million instead of Dr. Fauci, allegedly. I suspect Dr. Fauci has done quite well out of the situation, or it's a suspicion and an alleged comment. But although I don't suppose he's going to come after me, he's got enough on his plate at the moment, hasn't he, Dr. Fauci? Bon dia, Carl and Doc. I'm curious to know if compounded prescription medicines are widely available in Portugal. Thank you, Jeff, for a great and relevant question.
Yes, in my experience. So, obviously I'm no longer prescribing and I'm no longer practicing, and I never have in Portugal. However, as a patient and one who is on 3 medications, I was prescribed a compound medication which I had never come across in the UK. It was a combination, or a sensible combination, of 2 antihypertensives. We were always encouraged by the NHS in the UK not to prescribe these compounded preparations, A, because they were almost certainly branded and therefore more expensive, and B, because it meant that you couldn't easily finely adjust one or other or more of the compound, the individual amounts that make up the compound. However, I have been prescribed this compounded medication, and it means I take 1 less tablet. Fine by me. Yes, I think.
Okay. All right. So from your own experience, that would appear to be the case. And what does it mean then? It compounded, like literally, it is two put together for people who overlapping conditions.
No. So I have high blood pressure, and I am on 2 different agents for that blood pressure: amlodipine and perindopril. And in the UK, I would be prescribed 2 different tablets because A, it was cheaper for the NHS, probably, almost certainly, and B, if the doctor needed to adjust one or other of those agents, they could do so without affecting the prescription of the other. Coming to Portugal, the doctor says, "Oh, you don't want to do that. We'll give you this combination, and it means you're going to be taking 20% more of one tablet, but that's not going to be a problem, is it?" I said, "No, it isn't. I'll keep an eye on my blood pressure for the next couple of weeks." And so I now take 1 less tablet. It's probably costing the health service here more, but obviously the GP feels that it's unusual not to combine these 2. So, I'll let her carry on the way things are going in Portugal.
All right, Jeff, I think that's a good answer to your question, because if it's not available in the health system, the public one, I suspect if you go to a private physician or use health insurance, you're going to find that one way or another. Certainly the idea that Portugal is behind in any way with these things, I think is not true. And it's funny, isn't it, to see? I think it was a joke meme that was going around last week, but somebody, I think in North America, did send a tweet out saying, "Is there running water in Portugal?" And I sincerely hope it was a wind up and a little bit of a joke at the expense of Europe. As you know, there's a nice healthy rivalry, I think, between Americans and Europeans in many ways. And there are these ideas, aren't there, that for some reason Portugal is not advanced in some way. And I don't know where that comes from or why that's the case. I'm not saying you're saying that, Jeff, but this is a good example of you'll find medical care as cutting edge as anywhere in the world, I would say, in Portugal.
Yeah, definitely. There's some really, really good hospitals in Portugal, some fantastic doctors. There are areas where there are problems in certain aspects, like anywhere where there is, certainly anywhere that I've experienced where there's public health provision. But that's a fact of life. It's a fact of life in the UK. It's a fact of life in Portugal. But it's good. It's good, and there's pretty much standardization in terms of availability of medicines across Europe due to the Europe Medicines Agency and the free movement of goods and services. There's pretty much standardization.
Yep, great. Okay, Jeff, hope that helps. Pete's saying agree. Microsoft are just plain awful. Apple all the way.
Apple's just as bad. I'd rather have. I'd rather totally work on a combination of Linux and Android. So I have an Android Google tablet. I do have a Windows machine, but that's for very legacy programs that I still mess around with. And I
Right.
have Linux machines in the cloud.
So it's true to say an apple a day keeps the doc away on this
Yeah.
occasion. Yes, there we go. No, and we didn't include that just to be able to say that, I promise you. Bon dia, Doc. Wow, the Portuguese has started. Doc, I have a well-behaved ileostomy. If I go D7 and 67 years old, can I still get my supplies from the UK? Suspect you can, but I don't see why you wouldn't get them from here as well, Nigel Henry. What do you think of that, Doc?
I'm almost certain that that you will not have a problem getting exact equivalent supplies in Portugal. I think there might be an issue getting supplies from the UK, given what we've seen with supply chains, etc. But I'd be very surprised if you can't get the right products here in Portugal. The advice for me would be bring over as much supply as you can, and go to the doctor early, and make sure you sort out a good
What supply?
resolution to what could be an issue if you didn't do that.
There you go, Nigel. We are right in the middle of Ask Anything About Portugal. We take questions as general as you like. The generalist comment has been well made earlier on, and that's what we are. We're generalists. We do advise going to the experts for the specific things that they know specifically about. But I think it's a good start, and we've got a good track record here for pointing people in the right direction. We are signposters. More than gatekeepers here. I'm very happy to receive your questions on any aspect of Portuguese life. And we've got a retired UK GP here. And guess which one that is? The clue is in the nickname Doc on the right of your screen. He's very happy to signpost as well with matters medical. And we're going to go a little bit philosophical because I had a great question. I think it was a great question anyway for Doc in a little while after we've got through all the lovely comments that are coming in, including from Victoria. Bon dia, todos. Been a lovely stormy night. Could do with one of those here, actually, but will be a scorching 34 centigrade today. That's amazing in Atlanta, Georgia there. Good morning to you, Victoria. Doc, Microsoft stuff is not buggy. We're just unpaid beta testers. That sounds about right, doesn't it? And you see,
I think a good philosophical question would be define the difference.
All right. Very philosophical this morning. Yes, Stephen. I find Gmail's interface really annoying. I think it can be reconfigured, Gary. But yes, this is it. This is the problem, I suppose, isn't it? Back in the day when the likes of Gary would open up his bureau and dip his quill into the ink to send a missive to friends across the colonies, you could configure it as you wished, couldn't you? There was no standardization. And when we've moved into this world of mass technology, it does get standardized for millions of people. So there will be disappointment. It's going to be ill-fitting for many. And aimed at the average, isn't it? So that's probably why Garvo's not finding Gmail very satisfactory there. Go back to the bureau, I suspect, in the corner of the room. So it's a nice scene, isn't it? A grandfather clock ticking gently, an aspidistra plant on a plant stand, pulling down the front of the bureau, licking the quill, dipping it in the ink. Dear sir, it is with great affection that I write to you from Alviagra on this pleasant morning. Where's that gone, and Andy the Doc?
I think you only missed one thing out. You missed out the half-smoked pipe smouldering in the pipe stand as well.
Yes, absolutely. And the steward popping in occasionally saying, "Can I get you another sherry, sir?" Happy times, happy times. When Doc trained as a GP, that's what it was like as a trainee doctor, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
Quitting job and moving to Portugal is not Microsoft related. I was only joking, Matthias. Come on. The option for to work for my current employer from Portugal is still not denied. Fingers crossed. I hope that happens for you. Let them be progressive in that regard. Come on, Matthias's company, whoever you are. Good morning from Andrea Hogan. Good morning, Andrea. So you could class GPs as a sort of, I see what he's doing here. You're a diagnostic tool. Are you happy with that, Doc?
I think I decided to leave general practice when it became clear that I was more a a rationing tool of the establishment than a diagnostic tool of the patient.
Okay, there you go. I think that answers the question and misses the joke a little bit. But we know what you're up to, Gary. GP remark was from a viewpoint of a non-medical person. He's backtracking. He's after a firm rebuttal. He's backtracking, not compared with brain surgeon from brain surgery point of view. I like brain surgery. That's a sort of intellectual conversation, the brain surgery, isn't it? I think we might have to use that in a different context. Fantastic. Okay. Oh my goodness, so many comments we need to get through.
Cannabis-fueled brain surgery, or ayahuasca-fueled brain surgery, or LSD-fueled brain surgery. They're all slightly different.
We can't endorse any of the above. We know it goes on, but we do not endorse it. You're all grown-ups. Hey, some of you are. Hey, Carl, see you in Teams. Jerry winding me up there. Morning, Doc. I live in the Apple world now, and compared with my previous MS experience, have almost no issues at all. Well worth the extra dosh. You see, satisfied customer there. In the cult of Apple, no issue. No, another one. All the cult people are coming out now, aren't they? With their love of the Jobs products. Football Manager version for epidemiology will be released on Xbox soon. Your dream team of epidemiologists. Will you let Fauci be the manager? The company I work with has hired a new technologist. He seems proud to come from Microsoft and lead the way for the Microsoft team's development by how often he mentions it. Clearly, he's not reading the room. Thank you, Kent. Well, I think technology people, and this is a harsh stereotype, but I don't think technology people are known for their emotional intelligence, room reading skills, are they? That's not what they've been hired for. They have been hired to come and impose a system on you. And emotional intelligence is going to get in the way of that. UK infection rates, the Zoe survey, I'm assuming that is a thing and not a typo, or it's a woman called Zoe Ball has done a survey. Independent of government has tracked the official figures pretty accurately until last week, now showing 3 times the government numbers. Okay, so some people are thinking the government are really over-egging the pudding with their figures and all their testing and making a doom scenario. Actually, an independent one here shows it's 3 times as bad as the government are making it. So they may be underplaying it. Have you got a comment on that, Doc?
Well, only that my mistrust of government, which was high before the pandemic, has reached record levels, and the likelihood of official figures being wrong intentionally is probably 99%. And so, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. But who knows?
I thought you need. Thank you for that. I thought and thank you, Ian, for mentioning that. I thought you need to be registered as a habitant at the camera before being able to apply for NHR. And Jerry, stepping in, residency first, right? So the chicken and egg thing. Let's go for residency first, and as soon as start the conversations as soon as possible. That'll be my advice. That you don't make assumptions, but yes, I think technically you do need to be a resident to start the process, but you shouldn't be a taxpayer, because that's what goes against the conditions of the scheme. It seems like the experts are too fixed in their views or are being railroaded. Some say a little knowledge is a dangerous thing, but I think ignorance is a poor excuse to bury your head in the sand. Well said, Garvo. We've come to expect such comments from you. You have to be a tax resident here before you can apply for the NHR. So get that window right. Become a resident, become a tax resident, and then demonstrate quickly that you haven't paid tax here for the years that are required. Doc?
I got my NHR before I was tax resident.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely, 100%, and that wasn't through any kind of misleading statements or anything. I went to the camera, I got my residency, I spoke to AT, and they said go onto the portal and apply for it, which I did, and I got it. But I wasn't tax resident. I just had my residency as an EU national. And obviously, in order to do that, I had an address, which my landlord came to the camera with me. So I don't think you have to be tax resident. You have to be resident.
Yeah,
that's not tax resident.
Okay. Okay, this conversation will continue. It's, we want to make sure you've got the right answers on this. But I'm going to come back to my don't make assumptions. And sometimes you can drive a bus through the. Sometimes you have the bureaucratic bus driven over you. Sometimes you can drive it back up the one-way street, can't you, and get satisfaction, which I know Doc does. He's known for this. He's not afraid to get behind the wheel of the bureaucratic bus and drive it back. They don't like it up them, do they? But sometimes they yield anyway. Under your excellent bedside manner. It's up to March the following year after registering at your address at the camera, says Matthias. And if you register the address in January 2022, you can apply for the NHR until the end of February 2023. Here's a man who looks like he's looked at it, is Matthias, who is on the YouTube channel, Me, My Dog and Bike, which will document his journey to Portugal, I'm sure. Frank! Bon dia, gentlemen. Yes, Frank is here. Yeah, he's like and talking of buses, Frank's appearances are like buses. You don't see him for ages, and then 2 days in a row he's here. He was a star of the show alongside wonderful Rachel yesterday, celebrating the opening of their Portugal Airbnb. And starting an Airbnb in Portugal was the name of the YouTuber, and I expect that to have a lot of hits because it's a dream many people have. Afike, as far as I know. Oh, I see. I wasn't familiar with that. So that's probably a digital thing as well, isn't it? When people are texting and communicating digitally. That's a new one on me, but thank you for that. And that's a nice caveat as far as I know. My understanding, says Lonnie, is you have until the end of Q1. There you go, March. That seems to corroborate to file on the NHR. Mine took about 3 minutes. However, that was 3 minutes of a lawyer's time.
Yeah. That's why I did it myself.
It's a bit like, when people talk about dog years, isn't it? Or the lifespan of a butterfly. 3 minutes you wouldn't think is a very long time, but if it's lawyer's time, 230 euros. There you go. Thank you, Louise, for that a little bit of extra info there. Residency first, then NHR, according to our preferred providers there. Excellent. Thank you, Andy. And a 6-month booking, a 6-month booking in an Airbnb site is not proof of address in Portugal for your D7 visa. We've been looking at this with our Expats Portugal plan, people. You do need 12 months. And the Airbnb could work if you can get your Airbnb host to convert to a 12-month lease, but as Airbnb alone will not do. Spotter Home, who we also work with in the directory, can give you a more reliable lease as well. So look them up in our perks and freebies. Morning, everyone, from Andy. Morning to you, mate. Hi, Doc. I've been on heart meds after an incident which reduced LV capacity to 35% for 8 years now. Atorvastatins, I think I did that okay. Aspirin, Ramipril, Spirulactone, they make me breathless and weak, and my legs go numb still from knees down quite often. You don't want it for that reason, do you? And the feet tingle. Also, these are symptoms I can best describe. It makes me feel useless and lame. Do you think I will have to take these for the rest of my life? Thanks, from Fiona. And one of those two, Fiona or Simon there. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it's that's not a nice story, but I think you need an urgent medication review, and you should have regular medication reviews. The answer is, if you had that combination of side effects, I would be looking to change your medications, but I would be doing that in consultation with a cardiac specialist, of which there are plenty around in certainly in the part of Portugal I'm in, which is a small town, which is what we describe it as in the UK, but with a good hospital and good facilities. So get it looked at and get it reviewed often.
Which you could well do on the public health system here. If you top it up, however, if you top it up and go for even the bank's level of private medical insurance, which I did when I first got, I'm very happily with Nunu and Winsurance now. But when we first started, part of our policy was being able to ring up a helpline and be booked in to a consultant of a particular discipline of medicine. So you could do that as well. And those sort of premiums are going to cost you something like, well, depending on your state of health, obviously, which might put it up a bit in this regard. You're going to be spending, I think, under €100 a month to get that extra reassurance if you want it. But go on, Doc.
I'm not, I understand people who take insurance, and I have a little bit of top up, which is sort of by accident, which we've used once for dental work actually. But it is there, and we could get a home visit from a GP at no cost if we wanted to. However, if you're registered with your local health centre, and that seems to be what is taking the time. But if you're registered with your health centre and you told the doctor by email or by dropping a handwritten note in the box at the health centre that you had those symptoms and you wanted to see a cardiologist, you would have a referral for a cardiologist, I would say, within a week. And that referral is then up to you to phone the cardiologist of your choice, book the appointment, which will be within a matter of days. You take your paper from the GP and you pay zero.
What a service. What a service. And I wasn't aware of that, Doc. So you can put handwritten or get your word processor out, and you can put that through the letterbox. And get that sort of
well, certainly in the 3 different health centres I've been registered with, I've had the email address of the nurse for my own personal doctor. I've had the general email address of the health centre, and there is a box on the outside wall where people put prescription requests, etc. And any one of those ways of contacting would lead to an emailed or a text message answer with either yes, here is your prescription, or yes, here is your appointment.
Marvelous. That's why it's so important to have these conversations. That is great news for people, I think, because especially in a stressful situation where you might not be able to do that face to face, you could take your time, you could translate, and you could compose a letter and get service in that way. That is fantastic, Doc. That's really good to know. Thank you very much. I hope that helps Fiona or Simon. Not sure which one of you is in that predicament there. Shareem, I'm interested. Well, that's good to know. Are we going to take that as positive feedback for our 50 minutes that we've done it this morning? Shareem, good morning to you. And as usual, a community greeting each other, doing the happy dance. We have our VFS appointment in DC mid-August. It's getting real. Absolutely, Jim. Nice one. Let us know how we can help, obviously. Lonnie, only is there running water, the quality is better and without fluoride. So there you go. Slight whiff of chlorine, but I think that's probably a useful public health measure. Leave it standing for a while, and those vapors of chlorine evaporate anyway, don't they? So tap water, getting a 5-star review from Lonnie there, I think, in Porto. Portugal being behind. We were very behind when the dictatorship ended, says Elra, over 50 years delayed, but we have been able to catch up specifically after joining the EU. So there you go, Elra, thank you for that. Stop with the Fauci deep state conspiracy theory. Makes you sound like tinfoil cap. No, it doesn't take much, let's face it.
Hold on. I mean, Fauci would have been paid plenty when he was in post, and he's probably been paid lots of severance pay. So whether or not you believe deep state or not, he's had plenty of money.
And he's also flip-flopped on a few of his positions, has he not? You don't have to worry about masks. Whoa! Wear 7 masks is what I meant to say. Not a man to be trusted, as far as I can make out. Where is my tinfoil hat? and not running through decaying lead pipes. Morning, Colin, by the way. And not running through decaying lead pipes. Yes, of course, Lonnie. That's interesting, isn't it? Which you would find in London and America, I suspect. Wash hands. I don't know what that wash hands thing is. I mean, it's an emoji that gets translated into that. When I moved, says Louise, from London to Wales, I had to reassure people I had running water and Wi-Fi in Wales. People can be funnier about anywhere outside their little world, says Louise. Kenny Dunn, I have also experienced an amalgamation of tablets. Sorry, I'm not giggling about that, Kenny. I'm giggling about Colin and his accusations. All right, let me straightforward. I've also experienced an amalgamation of tablets specifically for hypertension, and that is through private medical / insurance, as the original tablets appear not to be available. So that's a good thing, right? The amalgamation there. Or is that referring to Fiona and Simon, or is that the compounded thing? I'm not sure. What do you make of that, Doc?
The amalgamation, I think, is good. I'm a little nonplussed by Kenny seems to be saying that he had to go private to get the amalgamation. If anything's on the formulary, it's on the formulary for both private and NHS Portugal, NHS doctors. So I don't understand that.
Maybe a second opinion is required, and that's second opinions in Portugal. There's a good thing, right? To talk about. Is that a thing? Is that respected? Is that welcomed?
I can't say. I haven't had to do it. I don't know. I mean, I guess I would, if I had to get a second opinion. I was being blocked at the local health centre. I would use our top-up medical insurance that we've got by accident.
Okay. Oh, by accident. Happy haircut, Doc. Oh, have you done something with your hair? Very nice. I've never owned an Apple product and you're so worth it, Doc. I have never owned an Apple product and have the same functionality with other products for less cash, says Andy. Taking an engineering approach, I think, the nuts and bolts of technology. Doc looks sharp this morning. I don't trust in secondhand fruit. Okay. What does that mean? I don't know. Let that sink in for a moment. It sounds really profound, doesn't it? But was it Socrates who first uttered that? I don't know. I'm on the Doc and Carl from Jersey. Hey, Jersey, so good to see you. Thanks for signing up on the Expats Portugal premium membership. So lovely to see you now. And you've had a nice warm welcome, I'm glad to see as well. Thanks to everybody recently. We had a lovely surge of premium memberships, which gives you a whole lot of extra perks, freebies and discounts. So thank you, everybody who does that. As a very elderly woman curing during the lockdown, I think. If you were the elderly woman curing the lockdown, we take our hat off to you, Patricia. I've been in hospital 3 times. I've been treated very well, she says. Okay, so during the lockdown. My question is that after a long period of trying, I now have my blue badge and a disability letter. What I'm wanting to know is, do I need to register my disability to anyone? Great question, Patricia. Sorry to hear of your troubles during the lockdown. I hope you're feeling better now. Doc should know the answer to this.
Yeah, I guess that your disability letter, you're referring to the Certificado Multiusos de Incapacidade, which is the multi-use certificate of disability. And the answer is, depending on the percentage disability that you've been awarded, it'll be worth registering with various people. So the first person you should register that with is back with your local health centre. The second place you ought to register it is the local Social Security Department, especially if you've got more than 60%, I think, or maybe 80%, because there is a specific non-contributory benefit that you get. So you get money, basically. And do you need to register anywhere else? No, but you need to keep it very safe. This is a contradiction in terms. Keep it very safe and carry it with you at all times, because so what I would suggest is that you photocopy it, keep the original locked away somewhere, and carry the photocopy, because it will give you discounts on the buses. It gives you, I mean, the chances are, if you're obviously disabled, that people will just wave you to the front of every queue in Portugal anyway. But if it's not obvious and you do need to go, you do need priority service, then showing that letter will give you priority service. So yeah, that's the sort of long and short of it. Big discounts on the trains as well.
Excellent news. Thank you, Doc, for that. I hope that's helpful. Patricia Bartram there, who asked the question. That's great. Doc, we're coming up to 10 o'clock. Are you all right for a little bit longer? So many questions, so little time.
Certainly have, and there's one I want to answer that you forwarded me. So the question was, as foreigners, can we get vaccinated? And the answer is yes. That's the short answer. The long answer is that if you're registered with the local health centre, you should automatically be able to get a vaccination. You should be called, but you can apply even if you're not registered with your local health centre through the sns.pt website. If you follow the links for COVID vaccination, there's actually a link for those who who are not registered with the health centre.
And that was from a forum that I saw. I just thought it'd be a useful question to put to you. That was, I think, an American, a visitor who was asking, not a resident. So thanks for that, Doc. I have to admit, says P, I do like using Gmail docs. Okay, so this Apple person is breaking cover for a moment. Doc, on the issue of combination drugs, I'm looking forward. I'm sorry, I'm not looking. I'm looking for something to help Garvo his naturist walks. Is there a combo of beta blockers and Viagra? That is not a serious question. We will move on to the man himself. I do have a bureau that was left behind by the previous owners. What was in it, Gary? Some lovely ephemera from back in the day. I bet it smells good as well. It bureau has to smell good of wax and sealing wax, leather. Werther's probably. Tobacco, my favorite smells. Mothballs, probably a mothball in the back there somewhere as well, and maybe a little sort of taster of one of those little samples of aftershave or something like that came with a magazine. That I want to smell your bureau, Gary, and I bet you don't get asked that very often. Carl, whatever you're on, it's not working. Get back on the pot. I am on the pot. Oh, that's another question. I'm in no time for it this morning, but I had the Sagres staying alcohol. It wasn't very nice. It was boasting about being made of malt. I don't know what they do to alcohol-free beers to make them alcohol-free, but I just suspect it's unholy, unnecessary, and I'm probably going to stop doing it, quite frankly. But then again, only 345 days to go. Victoria, hiya, Pete. How are you from Victoria? Teams. From he's not. A simple emoticon can say so much. Portugal's health system is robust and advanced, much more so than the US, I believe. In my case, I take a compound preparation because the traditional mainstream prescription equivalent is financially out of my reach. Oh, with my high deductible health insurance, a compound costs $60 a month versus $1,000 for the prescription it replaced with better clinical result. And you could say, the mark of a civilized country is one that doesn't exploit poor and poorly people, $1,000 a month. You could say that, and I bet you glad.
Is that cost the? Is this in the US or is this in Portugal?
This is in the US. Yeah, Jeff's in the US as far as I know. So the compound costs 60 versus the $1,000 a month for the prescription it replaced with a better clinical result. I don't know which one has the better clinical result.
In Portugal, I'd be surprised if you paid more than $5 a month, maybe a maximum $10 a month for a similar thing.
All right. Frank's got a question. Doc, are vitamin supplements harmful to the liver? If so, would a 2-month break be enough to give the system a rest and then restart? I don't think it's the vitamin supplements he needs to worry about with his liver, is it? But anyway, go on, Doc.
If you take the recommended daily intake, even though you're getting the same vitamins elsewhere in food, you're not going to have a problem. If you start to take mega doses, then yeah, you may well be harming your liver. But it depends on which vitamin. And so, yeah, let me know what you're taking and how much, and I'll tell you if it's likely to be a problem.
We have to bear in mind, you have to take a holistic view. This is the man asking a question who was drinking Prosecco with me this time yesterday.
Yeah, and I mean, Frank loves his alcohol, as do I. And yeah, that would be more of a concern than how many vitamins I'm taking.
I can imagine Frank pacing the streets of the Algarve, worried about how many vitamins he's taking. Am I doing myself?
Getting so anxious that he's drinking to deal with the anxiety.
I'll have to have some beer to calm myself down. This vitamin anxiety is doing my head in. US Department of State has put Portugal at a level for travel advisory. Do not travel. What's going on? What are the chances that Portugal reciprocates? This is a little worry. It is a little worrisome. I'm not aware of that, and thank you for bringing that to our attention, which we shall watch. That is so important to so many people in our community. So thank you for Victoria for mentioning it. We need to keep an eye on that. Alda, I agree with Doc. Don't trust. Don't trust governments. More people getting tested. PCR tests are extremely sensitive and don't distinguish between COVID-19 and common flu, or papayas, or ketchup. In some, in some videos I've seen of possibly dubious origins. But you're quite right, Alda, to make that comment. Or you're quite free to make that comment. Whether you're right or not remains to be seen, isn't it? Became a resident last month and got national health care this month without becoming tax resident. So there you go. Ron talking from his personal experience. One of these. We need a jingle. Right, don't we, for that? Hence, why we no longer see flu numbers. Also, the Delta variant is much less lethal, unlike what they say. Thank you, Alda, for adding that as well. Hey, Frank from Victoria as well. I am not a tax resident because we don't work here and we got NHR, but that may have changed over the past 2 years. Isn't everyone a tax resident, though? I mean, whether you work or not, you have to file, and
yeah.
I'm not sure about that, Gary.
So we had a discussion about tax filing, didn't we, Gary, earlier this year? And NHR is not a residency status. It's a tax scheme legally, and you are tax resident if you are tax resident if you spend more than 180 nights a year here, or might be 183, but who's counting? I am. But no, basically, that's the definition of tax residency. The fact you don't pay tax because you're NHR doesn't mean you're not tax resident. It means that the AT, the auto, whatever it is, Autoridade de Tribuaria, they say, yeah, that's fine. You don't have to pay us any tax at the moment, but you are tax resident.
And perhaps, like tax authorities all over the world, will say, people of the world, we're so sorry for the situation we've been in with this pandemic. We're going to let you off loads of your tax. That's not happening anytime soon, is it? You could be forgiven for thinking it might. I mean, these have been terrible times for a lot of people, but those wheels are probably going to keep on turning, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, Doc. Have you been following the trials on the vaccines for children under 12? Got a view on that?
Sorry, I haven't. No. I know that yesterday or today there were calls for, I think it might have been yesterday after the InfoMed meeting here, there were calls for children to be vaccinated. My gut reaction is, if it shows it works, yes, get them vaccinated. I would encourage my children to be vaccinated, although I've only have one now under 12 and only for a short period of time. But yeah.
Okay, Capricorn 12, have no fear. Good Morning Portugal is here. This is the high budget Good Morning Portugal show where you have to read out your jingles like that. But I'm very grateful to you, Capricorn 12. Hi, Doc. On the subject of high blood pressure, I've been on perindopril.
Me too, yeah.
For a few years. I never thought I'd be reading out drug names like this ever. But there we go. Perindopril for a few years and take blood pressure or BP regularly. Take your blood pressure regularly, which is always good. I've recently stopped as per GP in UK, as could be the case of issues with sinuses. My blood pressure continues to be fine without medication. My question is, should patients on blood pressure medication be checked periodically to see if they actually need to continue taking them?
Great question. And the answer is probably in most cases. However, for some cases, that would involve stopping medication for a period of time and waiting to see what the blood pressure does. I wouldn't do that personally because what happened to me was a sudden rise in blood pressure, which blew an artery in my brain. And so that's why I had a stroke. And it wasn't because I stopped medication, it was because I had intermittent high blood pressure. So I'm not saying that you're missing anything by doing what you're doing, and it sounds like you're fine, but if you're not taking blood pressure regularly enough, or you're missing those spikes, then you've got a problem. But if you've had to stop your medication because of side effects and your blood pressure has stayed okay, good. Just keep checking your blood pressure.
All right, we will resolve the last few issues here. I'm going to have to ask everyone to stop asking questions. We have ask anything about Portugal every Wednesday, and the doc is here on the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays. Okay, so put that in your diary. My endorsement for Portugal is it makes you healthier. I've been able to drop one of my meds now because I don't need it and was actually causing me problems with a slow pulse rate. Goodbye, atenolol. No Christmas card from that drug company for you then, Gary, on that one. Fiona, thanks, Doc. Fiona and Simon, not really had a lot of contact through the crisis, so we'll chase them up. Yeah, do that. Khadija, thank you for your correspondence separately from here. But Ola, we have been registered. We haven't been registered for a U10 yet, the SNS number, moving soon to a different area. Can we walk into a local health centre and see a doc about meds? We have private insurance until we register, Doc.
So the answer is no, you can't register. You can't just walk into a health centre. Your private insurance ought to cover you for some form of primary care, but obviously you'd have to look at the fine print and perhaps talk to the customer care line. But no, register for U10 straight away, because that the longer you wait until you've registered for it, the longer it's going to take for it to happen. I don't know how soon you're moving to a different area, but I would still get it done earlier rather than later.
Okay, Khadija, there you go. Victoria, waiting for her NIF, making me a bit nervous. You should be nervous. It is the umbilical cord that connects you to all taxation possibilities. I don't think that's why you're nervous. You need it to be here, I think, is why you're nervous, Victoria. Good luck with that, with getting your NIF. It does feel like a symbolic thing. Anybody who wants to send in a picture of themselves, a selfie with their NIF, having gratefully and joyously received it, do that, but cover up the personal details. Plenty of running water in Wales, of course, so no one needed to have asked you about that, Louise. Careful, Carl. Thank you for this, Stephen. The tinfoil has microchips. Oh, they get you on every turn, don't they? And GPS trackers in it. They just don't tell you. I used to joke. Thank you, Stephen, for your care about my mental state. I used to joke about Portugal celebrating 30 years of electricity. I bet that went down well. Regarding the NIF, wondering what documents I'll need to get one in September when I am in Portugal. I guess I'll have to look that up ahead of time. Well, you can walk into a Finanças. You need proof of who you are and an address, basically, to get a NIF number. Are you agreeing with me, Doc?
Yeah, absolutely.
They want to know that you are who you say you are, and an address needs to go on it, and it doesn't need to be a Portuguese address in my experience. Apple is secondhand fruit. Check their logo. Oh, I see. Someone has already taken a bite. I thought that was a reference to tap water, actually, which is more than secondhand. Jersey, my pleasure, Carl. I hope to use some of your help soon. You're very welcome, Jersey. You know where I am, here every morning at 9 o'clock. So why were the US investing money in Chinese virology labs for research, and why wasn't the work being done in the US instead of giving it to a hostile and very unaccountable regime? Was it profit or risk, Mr. Fauci? There you go. A question for Mr. Fauci from Garvo there. I'd like to buy a small quinta between 3 and 30 acres with a stream. This is living the dream, isn't it? Could you tell me your opinion? Where is the best location with the least chance of forest fires? Now, I would have said Castilla Branca, of course, for that sort of lifestyle, but there's quite a high fire risk over there. If you really don't want any fire risk, I mean, I'm not saying this glibly, but you shouldn't come to Portugal, really. Is that right, Doc? I mean, this is a country with a fire risk. It really is. And you just have to manage that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert, but yes, you're right. And B, I guess the lowest risk is the further north and cooler and higher you go. So up in the hills, some maybe what's that beautiful place up in the northeast?
Trás-os-Montes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So you could go on climate. But it's also a microclimate issue because it depends on how well the area is being managed and how densely populated it is with plantations of monoculture. There are places further south than I mean, it's a great recommendation that Doc is making, but you need to go check it out. You need to be very specific with this and understand the risk of where you're buying. So I wouldn't rule out Castilla Branca. Be aware that there are plantations there, but go where there's mixed forests. Go where there's very good management of fire risk, which does happen in Portugal, as well as the opposite. Sonia G, my dog, my bike. You will need identification. There you go, and proof of address. There it is, as we said. Thank you, Sonia G, for that. Appreciate it. A few old bills, some broken pens, a very dodgy DVD, and some very hairy people. So I
don't think that's going to get you a NIF somehow.
I thought that's what he was saying there. I mean, imagine if Matthias turns up in Portugal with, I've brought my broken pens, a dodgy tea, and I've brought some hairy guys with me. No, this is what's in the bureau of Gary. We've really got cross purposes there. I seriously need to point out to anybody that is not what you need for a NIF. Okay, thank you, Gary. It's all about timing. What do you mean that this lady will get money? What did we say there? Who's talking about money? I'm not sure.
If your disability is a high enough percentage on the multi-use certificate, then there's a benefit of inclusion, solidarity benefit of inclusion in Social Security, which is about €230 a month. I get it.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. That's what's meant there, Maxine. Try Muño de Pipa. That's a little tip. Perfect. A specific tip for DJ there with the between 3 and 30 acres and stream. Yeah, this is a problem. People with old bills that you need to take. Yeah, I think we again, Portugal is specifically advanced to accept that your bill might be on your phone. Rather than an old-fashioned quill written one. Frank is worrying about his liver taking vitamins. Now that's funny. We know each other well enough to laugh at each other's plight here. I could print an email, but I also have those on my phone. Is that needed, or can I save some trees by not printing that? You might have to just risk a twig on some of these occasions, Matthias. When dealing with finances, it's better to have it in paper because they usually keep it. Showing it is not enough. Thank you, Sonia, for that. Absolutely. Yeah, they'll like a copy. And where they put all this stuff, I was in a Registo doing my car the other day, and I could see these box files with 2020 on. I was thinking, where are all the box files? There must be somewhere, mustn't they, in a warehouse? It is not a paperless society. It is a progressive and advanced society, but it's definitely not paperless. I'm disappointed you have not mentioned vitamin D. Now is your chance to do so for Paul's benefit.
Vitamin D.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, fair enough from Matthias. Come on, we all know here, don't we, in this community, that you should be taking vitamin D, or at least considering it, right? And we also, we know that it's been missed out from the general conversation about what to do in these pandemic times. But thanks, Paul, for that point of order there. You're running out of time, but future question: where are the weak spots for medical-related services in Portugal? I understand that glasses are yes, spectacles are expensive, and
dentistry
and dentistry is also expensive.
No, it's just there's virtually no national health service provision, even though there's supposed to be.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. Dentistry is possibly a weak spot. Coverable with insurance, of course, as Doc mentioned earlier on. Any others to consider? Ken, come back on the second Wednesday. Let's continue that conversation. With the amount of sunny days in Portugal, there should not be an issue with vitamin D production internally. That's true to a great extent, isn't it? But there's no harm in getting your level tested and topping it up if necessary. We'll vitamin info. I've only heard... I think we've ribbed him a little bit too much on this. This is a genuine inquiry, isn't it? I've heard early morning espumante is a decent... Oh, maybe it's not. Is a decent cleanse. I've got to be more careful with those vitamins. Got it, Doc. Yeah, be careful with vitamins. It's dangerous. It's dangerous in the health store, Frank. Regarding glasses, depends. Prescription glasses for my kid, some €90 from Antonio F, and for myself, 170. Depends on the store. Traditional ones are pricier, and glasses. Okay, depends on the store and the glasses there. So that sounds like not extraordinarily overpriced. Antonio F might have a recommendation. Just like to thank the lovely Jenny B and Owen for their help moving furniture down to the annex. Bit of advice, guys. Don't pee her off. The woman is seriously strong. She is an Amazon woman, I think. I mean, I've not met her in person, but that's what I'm anticipating, and thanks for the advice there. If you want a special brand or frame, it will be much more expensive. Don't be a fashion victim. It's going to cost you. Thank you, guys. You are uplifting and jovial and bring a smile watching your shows, Fiona and Simon Wright. We do our best. We really do. Michelle, hello, Michelle. Just had a lovely Rogan Josh for dinner. Good for you. Is that a going one? I wonder. These traditional ones, asked my mother-in-law for some €600 for some glasses. I managed to get those for a third of that price. Okay, yeah. Well done, Antonio F. Wales has a low fire risk. Thank you. Random. Come to the Azores, no fire risk. Only earthquakes. All right. Life is risky, isn't it, Doc? And I think finally here, Specs Online. There we go. A nitty gritty nuts and bolts recommendation from Louise. Thank you very much. Just send your prescription. 2 pairs, cost peanuts, and they are fantastic. Specs Online. Should have gone to Specs Online. Does that work? Yes. Doc, you've been amazing. We've abused your generosity, going way over and worked you hard this morning. A trooper and a star as ever. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Carl. Enjoyed it as always.
Yeah, it's been a laugh, and we need it in these times. We'll see you soon, mate. Take care, and likewise to everybody. We'll see you in the morning. Yes, one of those. Hank is still in the country. I always think of you and Hank fisting each other.
Yeah, we met up a couple of times. Had a great time. Lovely guys, and hope to see them over here on a more permanent basis soon.
And keep in touch with Hank and Connie's journey on the Expats Portugal forum. It makes for great reading. It really does. They are being very generous with their time and energy on the forum. They're detailing their 10 destinations in 30 days. It's quite a schedule, and you can find all about it at expatsportugal.com/community. Take care. Have a great day. Bye for now.